Hi, I'm Jen. I'm not a chef, but I do like to cook, and today I'm going to show you how to make New Orleans style red beans and rice using your Instant Pot or slow cooker. I love this recipe. I make it at least once a month. New Orleans is where I'm from. Red beans are one of my favorite foods. This recipe is adapted from my friend Kitty's blog. I have a few different things I do with it, a few substitutions and changes, which I'll tell you about in the description below, and I'll include a link to the original recipe as well. I hope you make this recipe. I hope you enjoy this recipe. I also hope you subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you don't miss any episodes of our We're Not Chef series. So please do that, hit subscribe below, and let's get cooking. The first ingredient I'm going to tell you about is the beans in this red bean recipe. These are Camellia red beans. I brought them back with me from New Orleans in February of this year. I do that every time I go home. I really like these beans, but you could use any kidney bean. I prefer to find one that's a little bit lighter red, like a darker red kidney bean. I don't think it's quite right for this. These were dried beans that I started soaking about 12 hours ago, a little over 12 hours ago. I usually will soak my beans overnight. So last night, I think at 11 p.m., I threw them in a pot, covered them with water. Then this morning, I drained that water and added clean water to it until I was ready to start cooking them, and then I drained off the water again. So it's a good idea to soak them. It helps remove the gas. It makes them easier to digest. So if you like beans, don't want gas, change your water twice. That's my tip for you. I also pre-chopped onion, celery, and bell pepper, and then garlic. I'm gonna start my Instant Pot and just get going, turning it to the saute setting. And I'm gonna add in the onion, celery, and bell pepper. Let's see if I can do this without spilling it. Nope, I can't. So I've added the onion, bell pepper, and celery to my Instant Pot, and I'm just gonna cook this down until they're softened. I'm gonna add a bay leaf in now while the onion and bell pepper and celery are cooking. Any size bay leaf will do. I like it, so I tend to find a big one. And just let those saute for probably about 5 minutes, just until they start to break down and get softened. Okay, these are starting to soften and brown, so I'm going to add, this is about 3 cloves of garlic chopped. Gonna stir that in and let that cook for another minute. Now I'm adding my spices. This is 2 teaspoons of New Orleans style seasoning, half a teaspoon of smoked paprika, and 1 teaspoon of salt. Just toss that around to get your onion and everything coated with the spices. So next we're gonna add our beans, which have been drained. I like to stir everything around and get all this onion incorporated with the beans. Now I'm gonna add 2 cups of vegetable broth and 1 cup water. Mostly doing that because I only had 2 cups of vegetable broth. I like to add vegetable broth instead of just water because I think it helps the flavor. You essentially just want enough water to sort of cover the beans because you don't need a ton because you're using the Instant Pot. So yeah, that's about how you want it to look, where their water's just kind of covering the beans. The last thing I'm gonna add is a half a teaspoon of liquid smoke. Just mix that in. And then I'm gonna seal my Instant Pot, set it to high pressure for 50 minutes. And I'll be back in 50 minutes and you'll see what these look like. So the beans are done cooking. They've been cooking for about an hour in the Instant Pot. So now I'm just gonna quick release the pressure, which is sort of scary if you've never done this before in your Instant Pot. Be careful, don't lean over it while you do it. Stand away, don't put your hand on top of it while you move the valve. Press it from the side. So here goes nothing. I'm gonna release all this pressure. So now that the pressure's done escaping, I'm gonna show you the final steps of this recipe. The next step is to sort of make the beans creamier. You can kind of do this to your preference, but generally it would take about 10 minutes kind of by like hand smashing the beans against the side of the pot to make them really creamy. I don't love them super creamy. I sort of like them in between, I guess now, which is sort of like watery and then creamy. So I'm gonna probably do this for about 5 minutes. And all you're gonna do is just take like a wooden spoon or spatula. I have one with holes. You could use one without holes. Doesn't really matter. And you're just gonna take the beans and smash them up against the side of your Instant Pot. And then sort of take the smashed beans and reincorporate them into the mixture and the liquid. And just keep doing that and breaking down the beans until you start to see them get into like a thicker consistency. You can also turn your Instant Pot on to the bean or chili setting and it'll help kind of keep cooking and help evaporate some of the liquid. I'm not gonna do that because like I said, I do like them a little in between creamy and watery. So I found just doing this without it on is kind of gives me the consistency that I like. Okay, so this is sort of the consistency that I like. It's a little bit thicker, a little bit creamier. They are gonna thicken if you refrigerate them and eat them as leftovers, so that's why I try not to make them too creamy. So now that the beans are nice and creamy, we're gonna add our last 2 ingredients that will really help up the spice level of your red beans: hot sauce and pickled jalapenos. These are crucial ingredients for me. If you don't love a real spicy dish, I recommend trying how it is now and you can kind of add these to taste. I'm gonna add a lot. I know how much I like, but up to you how much you wanna add to this. Hot sauce, any hot sauce will do. I prefer Crystal hot sauce, but any hot sauce that you're a fan of, you could do. And add a lot. Don't worry about it. I don't have an exact measurement for you because I just kind of add a bunch of it. YOLO. For the sliced jalapenos, I'm gonna add about 2 tablespoons of the liquid, the brine from the container. And then I'm gonna add about probably a tablespoon's worth, this is a big tablespoon. I'm going big today. A big tablespoon of the jalapenos themselves. I'm just gonna chop them up pretty finely real quick. Just add those in. And give everything a good stir. And that's it. It's basically done. Now I'll just make some rice. I'm actually gonna make this with quinoa because that's what I have and it cooks really fast. If you're making this in a crock pot, you're gonna wanna add another cup of water and also cook them for about 8 hours. You might need a little more or a little less spices to taste. And that's it. I hope you enjoy this recipe and don't forget to check out our next episode of We're Not Chefs. Bye.